Hi, good evening. My name is Doug V. I am a alcoholic. I have a sobriety date of 1/25/25, uh, January 25th, 25. It's an honor to be here. Thank you for having me, Laura. I appreciate it. Um, Thank you for the newcomers. You guys, we're so happy you're here. I too was a newcomer. Everybody came in here one way or the other, and I'm super. We're all grateful you're here. Happy birthday to everybody who's celebrating new times and such milestones. I'm gonna say probably a lot. So I appreciate y'all. Thank you for your patience with me on this. This is my second time doing this. Um, I My first drunk, I don't quite remember really because, I was a little baby, I guess. My mom was calling 911 or poison control because I got under the covers. I was born in the 80s, different time, no locks. You know how it is. Um, they laughed. She laughed. They're, oh, you're going to have a drunk baby on your hands. That was my first drunk. But my first real drunk that I remembered was in high school, at a band's house. And it lit me up like a Christmas tree. It was just super wild and the most interesting experience. That it was like, this is kind of like how I want to live my life, or at least this is a solution to something that I've been, looking for. Um, I grew up in a wonderful household in a certain sense that I had some great parents that loved me the best way that they knew how. Um, my mom and dad, they were children of alcoholics. Um, and a slight glimpse of to my understanding and things is like my mom used to get picked up by her dog after school, and instead of walking her home, they took her to the bar where her parents were. My father had a dad who was an alcoholic, and it was quite rough for him as well. And I was born in to the blessing of having two people try really hard to love me the best way that they knew how. And to add to that, I was a hellraiser. you know. Um, so it was quite I was quite of a challenged kid. Um, Sorry, I'm all nervous. Um, but yeah, I kind of was raised on kind of gumption and just like I'll figure it out. I was the oldest kid. Um, Grew up in a household where things were real stern, yelling. Uh, but a lot of love. My parents are on here, so I don't know what I should say. Or no, I love my parents. My mom's the person who would take a bullet for me, and my dad would be the guy that shoots back. 100%. But the thing that happened is with this disease, I left my mom full of bullet holes. My dad out of ammo. You know, and I scared the hell out of a lot of people that I loved. Um, I used to be. I'm a very big heart on your sleeve type of guy. Shirt off my back. Um, I know what it's like to not have or whatever. And if I were ever hit with that, I would help people. I just wanted to be there for people that I loved or that I cared about. Fell in love with Marvel comics and superheroes. Met a dude named Gotham tonight. That is so awesome, by the way. I don't know where you are, but that's sick. Um, but I just grew up as that kid that seen the world from a perspective that was of, a huge level of malcontent and injustice, and being that like punk rock kid of seeing inequities and stuff like that. And, you know, not having necessarily a solution to those things, I found a solution in a bottle, and it was always like, I'll figure it out, throw dirt on it and keep going, and that was the biggest challenge growing up. We'd be kind of punk teenagers and then raise hell, get in trouble, rinse, repeat. Talking in circles. I apologize. But the one thing that I learned through this was, I'll figure it out. I was the oldest kid. That was the way. Throw dirt on, keep going. Boom, rinse. Figure out a way to make it happen. And my drinking took me, from like fun with consequences, like everybody else, and it just stacked. And I found these rooms through music. One of my bands was mentored by a person who may be online today, that kind of was teaching us how to be professional. And we wanted to go tour, and we were trying to go play Ozfest and all this stuff, right? Super sick, super grateful. And they showed us, but we're a clean and sober band. And I went into the other rooms that started with an N to support people. And because I went and did that, it opened the door to know that this program existed, and it saved my life, you guys. Um, People have this thing about God. I grew up not too stoked about God. Why would God do these things? I heard stories about how my parents were treated when they were kids, and things that happened to them. I swore I'd never be that man. You know, Over time, sometimes you swear you'd never do something, and then you find out and you turn into exactly that person that you said you'd never be. Um, I was a man that became very broken and didn't know what to do except do the best I could at all ends. If I could do something, I'd add more hours to it. I'd work harder. I'd pull money from here, do this, that, or the other thing to make sure that my family was safe and protected. And that was the top priority for me. And I burnt the candle at both ends with blowtorches until it absolutely just went up in flames. You know, I was the guy who at, 4 a.m., I'm staring at a mirror and I'm screaming on the inside, what is wrong with you? Like, why can't you get this right? What else could I do? Man, if everyone could pull this car to the top of the hill, I can maybe get a little bit more momentum to keep going, but the brakes were off, the wheels were off, everything is done. I was just in a damn sled with the chair, holding onto a steering wheel at the end of this. I just kept going, giving it everything I had till I had nothing. And that level of malcontent and rage, just anger, us guys, we're happy, we're angry, we're sad, we're angry. We don't know how to talk about being depressed or whatever. It comes through as anger. And that was the only way that I kind of knew how to express things. I'm super grateful. My wife and we have the same sobriety date. God is good in that sense, this program has shown a lot to both of us, and we've all been doing our work on our own and coming together. And my relationship with my wife has been better than it ever has in coming up 17 years. But at the end of this whole thing it was April of 2024, I was out of options. I didn't know what else to do. Felt like my family was rotting. I did everything I could the best way I knew how, and I was drinking at it. And it went from drinking to drink to black out within 45 minutes to just black out. So I wouldn't hurt the people that I love. I wouldn't say something that I'd regret. I wouldn't, I just wanted to check out. It got so bad that I would drink, black out, and I would talk in my sleep in how much pain I was in. And I didn't know how to communicate it, and I was suffering so bad. We think that, if I just keep going, I'll figure it out. At one point I lost 30 pounds in a month and a half. I had to go see the doctors, They go, Doug, you stressed? I go, if it was currency, I'd buy a house. I didn't know any way except force and go. So in April of 2024, I forced a spiritual experience, and I wanted to talk to God and just say, hey, bro, we need to have a conversation. I'm here. I pray. I listen to the Bible. I do all these things, read books. Bro, come on, And so my best thinking led me to, I'm going to talk to God. And if something happens and I go the other way, my other plan was I'll just start swinging at all those demons that have been tormenting my life, find their names, give them hell. And that was my best thinking. And I was blessed with the opportunity to actually go to an outpatient rehab, so that I could continue being dad and be there for my family, because we both, me and my wife, we both were basically loved each other the best way we knew how, but we didn't quite have this roadmap, fully figured out. So like I said, this wasn't my first time at this. I came into the other rooms supporting people. And then when I was about 25, I came into the rooms. Um, Scared as hell, again, newcomers, it's so awesome you're here. It's so brave and it's amazing. Walk into my first meeting and people are screaming at each other. I kind of giggle to myself when I sit down. I'm like, yep, this is the spot, you know? Um, and I remember sitting there and hear a guy who's just losing it. He's 40 years old and I'm 25, and this guy's like, my life's over. All the things, the yets that I hadn't experienced. I'm like, man, I hope I don't ever. That ain't me. Come 40 years old, I'm that guy. Things I said I'd never be or do. So I ran into some challenges there. It was hard to tell another human being exactly what I was. Here's this exposed nerve and how I deal with it. Here's all the shame that I have. And so I took what I learned from this program and I went out again, and it kept me sober for a while. I learned some of the steps and it kept me going. And then got twice as bad. So I came back in, same thing, went out, COVID hit. I was 3.5 years sober. And, at that point I was out of options, and all that happened, and started drinking again. And so this third go, a lot of people say, you didn't come in to win, but I came in here to this group willing, so very willing. I didn't know any other way, period, the end. I was sick. I was blessed. There's a gentleman online right now that I put my name in the chat and said, I need a sponsor. I talked to him for a minute and he recommended someone. And I remember coming into this group and I didn't know it. I seen this guy speak. It's like, that's the guy. Like, I feel like I could talk to him. I feel like I could trust him. Turns out that was the same exact guy that I seen speak not months earlier when I first came in here and started giving love and service a shot. God's good. It's weird how these things happen. I walk in, I see someone I haven't known 20 years, give me a hug. Can't tell you how grateful I was to have that happen. You know what I mean? So I was willing. And when I talked to my sponsor for the first time, he goes, what are you looking to get out of this? And the only word that came to mind was peace. I was done, dude. I was going through hell. I couldn't figure out any which way to go about it. And so I was brought into these rooms, went to my first meeting. Then the very next night I go to dinner and I meet all these people that this gentleman has helped out, touched, and met this guy with this grizzled voice named Bob. And he goes and he's like, you hit the jackpot, kid. I was like, oh man. I'm sitting there. I'm like, it made me listen a little bit more, a little more willing. But I was blessed to come into this program to be willing to see a different perspective. Like this whole program, we know how to read, we know all these things, but the idea of where your heart is on something and what your viewpoint is on it completely changes. They call it a psychic change, I believe. Right. I didn't know, you tell me they're like, I had to surrender, I'm not a quitter. No, that's not necessarily a definition. And you ask anyone in this room, they'll tell you a different version of it. You know what I mean? But I didn't know that I had to just say, I'm like a lesson thing I learned. I'm driving down the road and I'm crying. I'm losing my mind, trying to be sober. I'm in my first 6 months. And someone told me, like, dude, just pray, And I go and I'm like, God, like, take my hate, my anger, my frustration, my anxiety, my depression, my resentment. I can't carry it. I can't do it. I picture like my heart's pumping into my hands and I'm just taking this load and I'm like, dude, take it, and you guys taught me that and I got relief, but like that was surrender. It's like, dude, whatever you have planned, like, thank you for today. I already want to be a good dude. Like, who doesn't want to be a good person? Thank you for today. Bless me with the opportunity to go out and help anyone. And I've found within the year of my sobriety, like I have countless serendipitous conversations with strangers, absolute strangers. and conversations and such. It's quite amazing. So what I learned, different definitions of what surrender is, being humble, how to show up in life differently for the ones you love. A word I didn't even learn. All I got was, you know, and that all kind of came together in one magical way. And I'm so very grateful that you guys have me here today, and being asked this. I appreciate it. And this isn't a catfish thing, but how many of you people, not willing to sponsor, but how many people in this room sponsor? If you could just throw up a hand, like how many of you guys sponsor? All those hands, you guys, are people that were willing to take suggestions and execute them. And those hands that went up are also to give to you so freely what someone gave to them. That's amazing. You won't find a room, in my opinion, of more authentic people, period, the end, and it's a beautiful thing. Like, my heart's so full of joy with this. And I'm sorry if I'm talking in circles. Like I said, I'm nervous, but I'm grateful that, like, reading this book, like, I can come to somebody and say, hey, I don't get it. In plain language, in a certain sense, yeah, I understand this concept, but, like, in its core value, when your heart's in the right place, you see it through a different veil, like different eyes, And all the people that have taken me out to lunch or going to dinner or sat with me on a Saturday, like, dude, you guys helped save my life, literally. It means the world. So if you're new here, you guys, thank you so much. Should have a little willingness to take suggestions. Come and reach a hand out, shake someone's hand. To all the people that are in these rooms, I thank you guys so very much for all the smiles, hugs, and handshakes. Like, there's some people that have pulled me out of some dark holes just by a smile and a handshake. And y'all know who you are. So with that, I really, with my whole heart and every inch of my being, especially this being my home group, I want to give you a huge thank you guys so much for my family, for giving me my wife, my kids back. Y'all saved my life. I have my kids come give me a hug, tell me they love me, out of nowhere. I had my youngest kid come up and he's like, Daddy, what's up, dude? He's like, you're the best dad in the world. And I'm like, don't tell too many people. You're going to make the other dads jealous, But that's what this program has given me. You guys have given a pause when I have to have a heavy conversation with my wife to communicate properly, not be quick to anger. If it bothers me, wait 3 days, and we both know how to show up. Thank you to the sponsee sisters. You know who you are. You guys helped save my wife's life. There's so much gratitude, and so you guys gave away a lot willingly to me and my family. So I want to say thank you guys from my heart. That's it. Next up, we got JP.
JP alcoholic. February 1st, 2009. Feels good to say my name out loud because most people in the Bay Area just refer to me as Courtney's husband. So this is a big deal. And there's a lot riding on this because she said if I don't do good in this 20 minutes that she would leave me because her reputation is on the line here. Those are her words. I'm not making that up. So regardless of how this goes, I need you to tell her I did a great job because I'd like to sleep at home tonight. So thanks, Lisa, for asking me many, many months in advance to do this. Gave me ample time. No, it's really cool. I appreciate it. It's funny. I was at a men's retreat all weekend And Thursday, before I went down to it, I didn't want to go, like straight up. I had no interest in going. You don't know about my life. I'm so busy. It's chaos, blah, 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 blah. I don't want to go. And then I go, right? And the minute I get in the car with a friend, we start talking, and I'm really grateful that I'm going. Friday night, I'm listening to an average to slightly below average speaker. And I get a text. It's like, hey, somebody's sick. Do you mind, stepping up and speaking for 20 minutes? And my immediate thought is like, no, like I can fake an injury. I'm starting to feel a little tickle in my throat. Like, I got to get out of this, right? I didn't want to go to the retreat, didn't want to do this. But what AA has taught me is like showing up regardless of how I feel. And that is true with one day and 17 years in my experience. I was born and raised in the mean streets of Portland, Oregon. The rain is horrible, but like it's not the reason why I'm an alcoholic. I was raised by two parents who I love dearly, who did the best they could with the tools they had. And just saying that out loud took like a lot of work on my part, right? There's a lot of selfishness in there and a lot of things I had to uncover just to be able to say that. I was always a weird kid, and I definitely felt different, but I think a lot of us did. But early on, I found that like the avenue out of that was sports, right, and athletics. I'm kind of tall, I guess, so basketball kind of made sense. And growing up, I like dedicated my life to it. And alcoholics were stubborn, man. Like if we put our mind to something, we can really do some cool stuff. But most of the time, we're just getting drunk. That's a pretty normal thing. But I love basketball. Started playing all the time. Was really working out. It was a big deal, and I'm like, this is my ticket out, right? Like, I didn't grow up with a ton of money, or there was no scholarship fund or any of that stuff, but this was like the ticket. So I worked my ass off at it, and I was like, I knew of friends and people who were like drinking and doing drugs, and I was like, no, I'm dedicated, right? Like I would Heisman pose all of them, right? Like I'm good, I'm focused. And then what happened was the second I got any sort of notoriety, like any sort of like, oh, you have potential. I was like, I fucking made it. Oh, my bad. I made it, like here I am. Like this is all I've ever wanted, right? Like to fit in, right? I've always felt insecure. I just really, really wanted to be a part of. And so like that filled the hole inside of me. And so I was like, this is great, right? Like people start to like me. I'm still performing on the court, right? So like things are good. Sure, I'll go to this party and have a beer. And for me, it wasn't like love at first sight. Like I wasn't able to like dance all of a sudden, all that stuff. I still can't dance. It doesn't matter. Drunk, sober, nobody's dancing over here. But it made me feel different, right? And it added to the effects of feeling a part of. And but it wasn't like the heavens opened up. But it made me feel comfortable in my own skin for a second. And so, what happened was like I was going to parties, right? And there would be keggers and in Portland, there's not a lot going on, right? So we would like bring kegs to a golf course. And then there'd be like these, what is it, nutrients? I can't remember. Like these rat things. It's horrible. Like people throw those things around. It was a wild scene. But I was there for all of it. And then it was like, hey, let's get Slurpees and put alcohol in it and go to class, And we thought we were so cool, right? And again, like I'm trying to juggle these things, right? And I have to admit, drugs are a part of my story because I was born after the Great Depression. So I'm sorry, I'm just throwing that out there. And in my opinion, like all that did for me was just speed up the process, right? It brought me into the rooms earlier. But what started out as like fun and games, like quickly turned like horrible. It was miserable. I eventually got arrested for being with a friend who had scales and controlled substances, and it was all bad. Got arrested when I was 17, kicked off the team. Now my life is over, right? I was starting to get looked at by a couple small schools, and I thought my life was over, right? Like, you took basketball from me. So what did I do? I just partied hard, right? And slowly but surely, but I found myself unable to stop, you know. I was in a situation where I couldn't say no, you know, and what became, you know, what started out as weekend things quickly became a Tuesday thing, and then a Thursday thing, and then all of a sudden it's every day. Um, and I was trapped in my alcoholism and drug addiction, and I didn't even know it, you know. Um, so that went on for a while, and then you know, it just kept getting worse and worse and worse, right? And the yets kept happening to where I would never do that, and all of a sudden I'm doing it, and I would never do this, and all of a sudden I'm doing that, and I was stuck, right? Within a 4-year span, you know, I was roaming the streets of Portland with nowhere to go, right? And I'm doing petty crime to get by, and I don't know what's wrong with me, right? Like, I don't know that I have alcoholism. I just know that I'm broken and there's something wrong with me. And my parents, right? Like, they tried their hardest. I remember one time in particular, my parents took me to like a psychiatrist, right? And within like 30 seconds, like, we're sitting in this room, and he's like, your son has drug addiction and alcoholism. And I'm like, what? Like, there's no way. Like, and I was upset. Like, my parents didn't have much cash, right? Like, they're paying for a psychiatrist to get me help, and this is the best. Like, I'm like, that's not even the answer, you know? And I'm like, how'd you get your degree, sir? You know, like, I was so dumbfounded. Um, and again, right, it just got worse and worse and worse. And I didn't know what was wrong with me. And I remember, like, you know, I'd be like hanging out at a bus stop before I met like a drug dealer or something like that. Or I'd be like roaming around downtown Portland, and I would like see people like walking by and like walking the dog or going to work or just living their lives. And I was like, I have no idea what that's like, you know? All I really wanted was to just feel okay. Like, and I didn't know that was possible, you know? I was dumbfounded with what was wrong with me. And at that time, it was obvious to everybody, right? Like, I'm saying that like I had no idea, because I really didn't at the time, but it was so obvious to everybody around me, like what the problem was. So unbeknownst to me at the time, like my uncle, who lived down here, we were really close. He's a really goofy guy. He's a fun time. He likes rap music and fast cars, and he had a job, so like it was cool. And we would talk all the time on the phone. So I'm roaming the streets of Portland, doing what I'm doing, just to get by and loaded. And we would talk, and my family told me like, hey, your Uncle Bob has, you know, 20 years sober. And I'm like, so like, what does that have to do with me? Like, I don't understand, you know? But he knew like my parents coordinated with us, and he knew what was going on with me. And my parents were devastated because they didn't know what to do, you know? And my uncle would talk to me, and he would like 12 step me. And I'm like, dude, I'm so different. Like, yeah, you might have done this and that. I'd suffer from uniqueness, right? Like, don't you know I'm special? You know, I'm this little snowflake that's very unique. Matt still thinks I'm that way, so I appreciate it. Thank you, Matt. But he would 12 step me, right? And he would like say stuff that we say to newcomers all the time. You know, like, there's a way out, there's a solution, and you know, all those things. And I just couldn't hear him. You know. And through a series of events, right? Like, I didn't want to live anymore, and I didn't know how to stop. I didn't think for one second that drug and alcohol were my problems. But I was desperate, right? Like, something had to change. And then finally I come like crawling back home. And I tell my parents, I'm like, okay, like, we'll go to rehab, right? I have nothing, like, every bridge is burnt. And before this, actually, I used to go to meetings, and I'd either be loaded or I'd be needing a drink or a drug. Um, in some meetings I would use in the bathroom, which is, I thought I was the coolest kid in the world. Like these crazy folks in their meeting, like I, I thought it was a cult, you know, I thought you guys were a total cult. It's funny, people would run out after me and be like, keep coming back. There's a solution. And I'm like, whatever, like this book is supposed to get me sober. Like, that's crazy. Like I need to be in an insane asylum, right? Like there's no words on a piece of paper. The minute you see God, right, I'm immediately out, right? There's no God. So I thought, uh, and I probably went to like 20 meetings before I ended up going to rehab, and I just couldn't hear, right? And you guys tried, like you really did, and I just couldn't hear anything. Um, and so I go to rehab, and I'm miserable, right? I don't want to be there, you know. And it's horrible. I'm detoxing. Eh, I know it's not going to work, right? Like I am convinced that this thing won't work, and that this is what it's going to be. You know, I'm not long for this world, right? Like very deep and poetic. Uh, but the craziest thing happened, right? I was able to put together a couple days in rehab. I can't remember exactly what day, but probably my fifth or sixth day there. You know, I'm going through it, you know, and but 5 or 6 days in, the thought comes to my mind, which is a thought I've never had in my life. But the thought was, you don't have to feel this way ever again if you don't want to. And that thought had never entered my mind, right? Like, and I heard it from you guys, you know, I didn't hear it in the moment, but I heard it in that moment. And for whatever reason, I stayed, right? And I was like, maybe there's the slightest chance in the world that like I can get sober. Um, so I gave it a shot, right? I stayed in rehab. And of course, they told me like go to AA, right? And I'm still like unsure, right? But I'm willing to try. I hadn't, you know, since the minute I started drinking and using, I hadn't put together any time, you know. Um, so I finished rehab, and I'm like, okay, like maybe this will work, right? And I go to AA, and I'm still extremely unsure. But I walk into an AA meeting, and it's a bunch of old people, and I'm like 20 years old, and I'm like, this is insane, but I have nothing else going for me. Um, and one of my favorite things about AA is just one alcoholic talking to another, you know, because the people in here is what keeps me coming back. I thought I was so unique and so different, and I couldn't relate to any of you until I heard you guys' story. And it wasn't the things that you did, because everybody's story is different. It's the way you felt, you know, like the minute you told me about the fear and the pain and the suffering that we went through. I could relate to that, right? Because I was 20. I never had a job. I never drank in a bar in my life, you know. But when you talked about the feelings, I could get behind that, right? And I still was like unsure. I didn't believe you guys, but I started to just a little bit, right? And you guys would take me out to breakfast and get me coffee. And my first year, eventually I go back to my parents' house. I'm sleeping on a couch. I probably went to 1,000 meetings in my first year, and that's like not an exaggeration. Like I'd go to a 6 a.m., a 7, a 9:30, a noon, and like a 5:30 or a 7:30 p.m. meeting, because I couldn't trust myself walking down the street. Um, and things started to change, right? Like I'd get 30 days and then 60 days, and I got a sponsor, right? And I couldn't understand this God thing. And he said one of the things that was most profound to me, when we started working the steps, and you know, step 2 in particular, and it's like it's a wide hoop, right? The 12 and 12 talks about it's a pretty wide hoop that we have to jump through. And he just said, and I was fighting it, right? Like any concept of a higher power. And he just said to me, like, what if you pretend? And I was like, well, for whatever reason that clicked for me. I was like, well, I can pretend, you know? And then we banged out the steps, right? And life got good. You know, life was good, you know, and I never thought it was ever possible. And as a kid who just wanted to feel okay, I started to feel okay. And I wasn't looking for cash and prizes in AA. I was just looking to feel okay, like those people walking their dog down the street or going to work or having a coffee. Like I didn't know what that life was like. I was getting chased out of Chevron gas station bathrooms. Like that's the life I know. And so at 2 years sober, my uncle who owned a business in the Bay Area, and again, we were really tight. He was like, "Hey, why don't you come move down to California? Like anytime you want." And at this point, I eventually got a job in Portland. It was a nothing job, but it was a start. And so I said, you know what? Like, let's roll. Let's move to California. I'll move to Northern California. Didn't know much about it. I'll start surfing all the time, right? Like I thought I was moving to LA. Like, and I'm like, I've seen Babe Watch. Like that'd be amazing. It gets really cold here. It's so unfortunate. But so I moved down here not knowing a soul, and I end up getting an apartment in Hayward, and then I meet all of you, right? And by that point, I started getting involved a little bit with young people's and Acupaw in particular, and that is some of the craziest stuff I've ever seen in my life. I was normally in meetings with like old dudes in cowboy hats and stuff like that, and then I come down here and I go to Acupaw in Fresno, and there's beach balls in E40 and Too Short being bumped to where you cannot hear. And it was a blast, right? I slammed Red Bull on my head and stayed up and just vaped and nicotine and chew, and it was great. And it was a side of AA that I'd never seen before. But I only got a couple minutes, so I'll finish this up soon. But I was cured, right? Like by this point, I thought I was cured from alcoholism. So I just kind of stopped doing AA. And it wasn't a conscious decision. I was just, I just thought I didn't need it, right? Like I had the knowledge, right? I could tell you what's on page 25, I can read that stuff. And I didn't need it anymore. And so we know what happens. At 5 years sober, I wanted to move back home, right? I'm like, a geographical will fix all of this. It wasn't Portland. I just needed a little bit of time away, right? So I kidnapped my wife now, as she likes to refer, and we moved back to Portland. And I'm like, this is great. I got a good job. My girlfriend at the time is here with me. Like, this is perfect. I'm back home. And I was absolutely miserable, right? I was drier than dry can get. And, at like 8 years sober, I stayed sober, but at about 8 years sober, I wanted to jump off a bridge and I couldn't figure out why. I probably go to 2 meetings a year, wasn't praying, no step work, was just me all the time. And the same logic that didn't apply to me when I was drinking and using, of 2 + 2 not equaling 4. Like, what's wrong with me? I don't understand. Like, I can get to that same place in sobriety without a program. And it's scary, right? Because I'm not actively making those decisions. It just happens. And more time goes on. We end up moving back. It was the best thing for us. We moved back about 4 years ago, and it was great to be closer to Courtney's family. Super grateful for that. But I'm still kind of miserable, right? And I had to hit a level of humility, and I asked my wife, right? I'm like, what dudes do you know down here that could like sponsor me, And she's like, I have no idea, but let me ask my sponsor. So I get a name, and I text this phone number a couple of years ago. And I'm like, hey, this is JP. Do you have a second to talk? And what I get back is, I'm in Tahiti. Can it wait a couple weeks? And I'm like, Tahiti? I don't even know where Tahiti is. I have no idea. Still don't really know it, to be honest with you. And I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. Right. And I'm like desperate, I'm like, who's in Tahiti right now? We meet for breakfast. I see boat shoes and a Rolex. And I'm like, oh my God, this is a 680 men's meeting corridor guy. Like, this is horrible, right? There's only so much of that I can take. And I tell him my story and he tells me his. And then, he's like, hey, you need to get a posse and like start calling people. And I'm like, what? I left that restaurant furious. Like, where's the advanced AA? You know what I mean? Like, where's the secret sauce? You know, it was so unfortunate. And that old guy was right. You know, it's such a bummer. I hate being wrong. It's such a bummer. Just to sum it up real quick, I found for me the best thing in AA is to take action, even when I don't want to. Right? Like what's beautiful about the program of AA is that I don't have to be fired up to do it. Right? I can kick and scream the whole way as long as I take the action. I get the results, and so I love this meeting. I don't know what it is about love and service, but there's some secret sauce in here. I don't know if it's the water, the air conditioning. You guys pumping in something. This is a beautiful group, and thank you. I appreciate it.